Save 8% off your order at TrueTechTools.com by using the Shop Talk discount code. Hello and welcome back to HVAC Shop Talk. I hope that wasn't too boisterous, everybody. I am back. Took the day off Friday. I didn't like doing that. I don't like not doing this. I look forward to streaming. I enjoy streaming, and I'm just like a 12-year-old gamer. I just get excited. I fire up all my computer monitors, both of them, this one here and this one over there, and I get streaming, guys, because I like it. I like talking to you guys about whatever it is you're doing and just learning from you guys and imparting all of my knowledge, which should only take about 36 seconds. Here goes. All of my knowledge. 3-ton units need an 18-inch duct. When you braze, you got to flow nitrogen. You know what I'm talking about, guys? Every time. Flowing nitrogen. I don't think I flowed last time, but it wasn't a lengthy braze. So I felt no desire to flow nitrogen for a non-lengthy braze. First and foremost, I have to salute, and I hope Weaver's watching now. Weaver, thank you so much. I got a package in the mail from Weaver. You know, last week we got a package from Clint. He sent me an iManifold that looked like he blew it up with the tannerite, but I was pretty excited about that. Got the 2 probes, got the iManifold. It was awesome. It was wonderful, but Clint, thank you. Thank you. Dave, you sent me something, and I got both things you sent here. First, let's talk about the cable. See, Dave saw, or I don't know if he saw or he heard or whatever, but I put this Cat 5 cable in the ground out here for my internet. I buried it. Now, this cable is probably not supposed to be buried. I just needed to bury and get internet immediately. So I'm the real love the one you're with kind of guy. So I went and got the cable I had, and I put that cable in the ground. It's still working, but Dave seemed to think that it wouldn't always be working, and he's probably right about that. And evidently had some underground cable. Let me see if I can get this stuff out here. Well, I'm not going to get all of it out. So for you guys on the YouTube, you can see here, it looks much beefier than the cable that I used. I don't know if you saw the cable that I used. I don't think I put a video up or anything like that. But this stuff is much nicer looking. It looks like it'll last a whole lot longer. But Dave also sent this fine specimen, which is, let me open up this shirt. It's a Cleveland Browns shirt. Now, I don't know if Dave thought that he was going to send me a funny shirt. Like, if someone sent me a Patriots shirt, I was like, hey, where's the garbage at? But no, for the Cleveland Browns, I grew up. We watched the Cleveland Browns. We like the dog pound. We enjoyed watching it. Hey, old Bernie Kosar, he was a pretty good quarterback. You know, the Browns were never all that good whenever I was watching them. But we like the Browns, man. They didn't really win a whole lot, though. That was unfortunate. But we did like them. The dog pound was like a brutal place. You have all them guys up in the stands. It's an intimidating place to play. I wish the team was better. It's like if you go to Pittsburgh, you got the terrible towels. And it's intimidating. And Pittsburgh would win every now and then. But Cleveland, not as much. Although I don't know what they've done lately. Because I think, wasn't Cincinnati in a Super Bowl last year or something? And it's been a long time since I think Cincinnati's been good, unless I missed something. Maybe they've been good the last 20 years, but I've missed it. But the last time I watched Cincinnati and they were good, it was the Icky Shuffle. And I don't know if you guys remember Icky Woods and the Icky Shuffle, but it was awesome. It was awesome. End zone dance. It was like 1990 or something. And I forgot to turn the comments on over here. Oh, yeah. Weaver says the Browns' motto is there's always next year. That sounds about right. But we used to watch the Browns. I don't know why we like the Browns for, because no one I know in our family is from Cleveland or even been to Cleveland for all I know. But they like the Browns. In fact, my father's family came from Chicago. You know, those Bears people, they're nuts. They love the Bears. So I don't know how we got the Browns. Of course, my father's father was a real dink, so maybe that's what it was. We just do the Browns just to tick them off or something. Not a good man. Not a good man. Every family's got one of those. You got some fathers of the year, then you have the father they had to run off. Well, my father's father was the one they had to run off, literally at gunpoint, because he was so abusive. He was a Polish I don't know if he was a singer or a musician from Chicago, it's a trip. It's a cool story. It's like, wish he would have been a better guy. It would have been even better. But then my mother's family is from, I don't know, Carpenters. So that's the English Isles, Carpenters. And then they have a section of the family that's from a place in France called Alsace-Lorraine. It's pretty interesting stuff if you're me, because it's my family. Otherwise, you guys are listening to what you're probably calling the worst podcast you've ever heard before. But that's fine, whatever. So today, as you can see behind me, there's no more insulation in the walls. I put up some boards. Oh, there's some new stuff going on here. I put up all these wall panels here, and I'm going to put on some sound stuff because as soon as I put up like the first two panels, the echo started, and oh my gosh, I can't take it. Now, I don't know about you guys, but you guys go to work and you're a perfectionist. It's like, that vacuum was only 513 microns. Our system's chock full of moisture. I got to get it down to 490. Now, if you're one of those guys, I mean, I can sympathize with you because once I put the panel up, it's like I heard the sound starting to bounce. Because before, you know, with insulation, there's no sound bouncing. It absorbs that stuff. It sounds great in here. Of course, there's fibers everywhere and whatever, and that's not good in general for your health probably after a long enough period of time. I don't wear masks anymore because I think COVID's over. I think it's bird flu now. I think COVID's over and now we're doing the bird flu. But I think that's affecting mostly the birds, so I think the birds have to wear masks now. I think the government's probably going to pass a law, especially California. The birds got to wear masks. But since I don't want to wear a mask for any reason whatsoever, I just put up these panels here, block the insulation down, but I can't take it, man. I got to put up some kind of foam or something like that. I'm in there talking to my wife before the show starts. So we got to go buy rolls of foam or something because I can't take it. I cannot take it. It's just like everybody else out there in the field. You got to do things a certain way with a certain result or you can't take it. You get physically ill thinking about it. So I won't rest. Well, first of all, I got to finish all the other boards you can't see because although they go around here, there's still a few next to the windows where I still see insulation. So the last little bit of sound absorption is going to go maybe later today or early tomorrow morning, maybe. I don't know. So I'm working on that. Everything HVACR. All you missed is I can bring you up to speed real quick. You missed me discussing where my family's from because my dirtbag grandfather was from Chicago. And they ran him off at gunpoint, which is an interesting story. That's true, too, which makes it even better. I didn't make it up, like all my other stories. And then my mother's family is from Alsace-Lorraine. So you're all up to speed now. We haven't talked any HVAC at all, except for me kind of equating my insulation scenario to a vacuum micron reading. It's kind of weak. But to get to HVAC, I can't show you guys because I just don't have the technology set up for it. But right over here is the mini split. And because I have this mini split on now, and it's in the 80s here today, I do believe inside of here it feels like it's 47 degrees. It's freezing cold in here. And this thing says 74, and I'm pretty sure the 7 and the 4 in the wrong order. I have my little remote right here, as you can see on the YouTube. It says 74 degrees, and I have it in dry mode. And evidently, when you put a mini split into dry mode, it says, I'm going to achieve a certain humidity, and I'm going to run the temperature down until we get there. And we're just going to keep running for all of eternity because it feels cold. It's running at a very low RPM outside, but it's very cold in here. but you can't hear it, so it's working out the way it was planned. The mini split video, because I did do a video, because I was nice enough to have an arrangement with the people who made this thing, Cooper and Hunter. They sent it out, so I would do a video for it, because frankly, let's be honest, guys, I ain't rich. So when making this building, I needed some assistance. So I worked out a deal with Cooper and Hunter where they'd send a unit, and I'd make a video of it. So there will be a video for all of you guys to see about the installation, which should be interesting. I can't wait to see the comments on that, because just a normal video from me, guys are like, hey, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Why'd you do this? Stuff I've never even heard of before. I know they must be better than me because I've never even heard about their way. It's like, really? That's a thing? You can do that? So I'm pretty sure that's going to happen on this one too. I built a wooden box around the line set. I can't wait for all the line hide comments. But like I said, Zach's a love the one you're with kind of guy. So if we have wood left over, we're going to use it to make a box. And that's how it's going to be. But it's only been running for like 2 days. I didn't even use it yesterday. I just came in here today because it started to warm up after a while. This morning it was like 40 degrees, but now it's 84 or something. So it's working great. It's doing a good job because it feels freezing in here. Really quiet outside. I have to kind of walk up to it and kind of squint to see if it's working or not. But then I see the fan movement. It's like, okay, it's working. So it's just like every other mini split. It's nice and quiet. But that video will probably be out at the end of the week, if I had to guess. I don't know. Because I'm also trying to finish a job where I'm doing duct work, hooking up some units, starting units, and I'm trying to finish the inside of this building. So it's going to be a really busy week. What's up, Zah? Air and heat and plumbing. Everything HVACR. Man, the trolls, man, on YouTube, it's all right. YouTube's actually a lot better than some of the other social medias. Like, I have social media on Instagram. I have TikTok. Instagram seems pretty nice in general. You just get the standard, we know better than you sort of comments. But on TikTok, I mean, there's some weird stuff on TikTok. The comments are, I don't even read most of the comments because there's so many of them, and they're just strange. And a lot of people on the internet are just searching for people to hurt emotionally, and it shows. And it's very, very sad. But don't subject yourself to that. It's, YouTube comments are okay. Like, I have some YouTube comments pulled up right here we can talk about. But, I mean, I tell you what, you go to the other social media like TikTok, I mean, don't even read them things. You read a couple TikTok comments, you think you're the worst person in the world, you're about to go jump off a bridge. That thing is bad. Bad to the bone. I'm trying to see what we have over here on the YouTube comments because I'm putting out a lot of videos now. So there's a lot of comments rolling through. So, oh yeah, there's Joe, because I made a video of a ductwork install where I was putting flex on a boot. And I'm sure you guys know, but a boot's like the little metal thing that fits up into the floor. And then your flex duct you're all familiar with, I'm sure. And I was putting it on there, and Joe's like, you don't use a band gun and never have? The little Panduit gun where you pull it and it tightens up that little duct strap? I know I've had one before, but I've never used one except for maybe once or twice. I'm sure I used it a couple times, but I mean, I'm a big guy, so I used the guns, my actual guns, to do it. And I've broken a few of the Panduits just trying to pull them tight. So, I mean, it must be tight enough. I mean, they don't fall off. I just never did it. It's just one of the things, like, if you're familiar with installing these boots, like a plaster frame. You put plaster frames on boots and they go in the ceiling of a residence or a business. I'm trying to describe these things. If someone hasn't never seen one of them, it's kind of hard to describe. But it's just something you put up against plaster, sheetrock, and then you screw the grill through it, and you can screw it into the plaster frame. It sandwiches it onto the ceiling. It's typically how it's used. So I've never had the little tool that puts the divots into those plaster frames that locks it into a boot. I've never had one, and I've never got into it. I remember doing an install like a long time ago. Like, it was my first one I was really in charge of. It was for a friend of mine, and I sized the unit, and we were installing it with a few of my friends who were in the trade. It was 2004, and I remember telling the guy, okay, here's how we're doing the plaster frames. I don't have a plaster frame tool, so what I do is I go to the little lip where the boot sticks into the plaster frame. I cut a slit with snips and bend it over and keep it in place that way. And that's how I've always done it, and I'll do it that way till the day I die probably, because I ain't buying no Malco tool or whatever that costs like $50 to do something I got snips for. I can just bend it over. I mean, man, I'm not lazy because I'm used to this other way of doing stuff. That's why I'm saying that. What's up, Albert McCar? And Albert, I didn't forget about you either. I know we're going to get together and talk this week too. It's just been kind of hectic. I've been, like I was telling these guys, I've been finishing this mini split in here, and I'm doing the walls, and the ceiling's not done yet as I look up at the insulation. I need to finish the ceiling as well so I can get some soundproofing in here. It's just, I like projects. I think it's fun to use tools, but they never end, dude. They never end. It's projects all the live long day. And like I said, I like them, but I mean, it ain't never going to stop probably till the day you die. I hope it's that way. I hope I'm doing them till the day I die. That would be awesome. If you can wish for something. Now, let me see if there's any other comments here. And I'm going to go ahead and what I'll do. Actually, you know what I'm going to do before I look at any comments or open up the phone lines? We do have another sponsor that's getting... They recruit for different jobs and positions in the trade, so it's a really kind of a cool sponsor to work with because their whole job is to try to find people for positions that are in the trade. And the very first one we'll be talking about is an HVAC trainer in North Carolina. Now, if you're not in North Carolina, you're like, oh, this ain't going to be me. But it might be one of them things where you pay attention anyway because it might be one of those jobs that is so nice that you want to go live in North Carolina to do it. So I made like a little video for this whole position. So I'm going to play that while we gear up for taking some phone calls. And what I'll do is I'll catch up with you guys after it's done and we'll get some phone calls or we'll read some more comments. Work with Your Hands is an organization dedicated to recruiting qualified men and women for the residential service industry. Currently, they are seeking to recruit an HVAC service trainer. This new position could pay in excess of $100,000 yearly and includes perks such as a take-home vehicle, health care, 401k, and more. If you are an honest, knowledgeable, and reliable problem solver who wants to shape the future generation of HVAC guys and girls, visit workwithyourhands.com. You can find a link to the job listing in the description of this video or podcast. So that's a pretty good position to go after, I think. And they had some more on their website. It was a plumbing position, but I know a lot of you guys are like crossover superstars that might do other trades. So it could be worth a shot just to kind of read up on it because it sounded pretty good. It sounded pretty nice. And North Carolina, it's not like an expensive state to live in. Like I tell people, my house cost $120,000. Originally, before it burned down, it cost $120,000. This one right here costs a little bit more because we pay the difference between the insurance and the cost of the house. But you can get yourself a decent house in North Carolina, 1,500 square foot, if you call that decent. That's what I call decent, for just over $100,000. Sometimes for less if it's an older house. So coming to North Carolina to make $100,000 really goes a long way. I think that makes you governor of North Carolina. So it's worth taking a look at. Going to, even if you apply for the position, you decide you don't want it, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So while the video was playing, I went and got the mini split install guide because my favorite thing about mini split install guide is evacuation. So I was trying to find that real quick because they give you a lot of great information in here. And some of the stuff is not as good. It's like everything is so detailed except for this thing. And I want to find it. So we have all the clearances and stuff like that. Very particular. You got to be this far away from this far away from that. They have mounting dimensions. Very particular. How to connect the refrigerant piping and the flares or berets. We'll talk about that in a second too, actually. But I wanted to find the vacuum part because that's my favorite. Evacuation instructions. Alrighty then. Here we are. Okay. So we're going to go to the air evacuation part of the Cooper and Hunter Sophia. I guess the name of this is Sophia. All right. And she's 25 Sears, guys. So that's a lot of sweet Sears right there. And I want to say hello to chat people. Hey, Doug. Hey, Jared. And hey, Little Chingus and the Big Pitcher. That's a heck of a name right there, guy. All right. Evacuation instructions. 1. Connect the charge hose of the manifold gauge to the service port on the outdoor unit's low pressure valve. And just imagine this is a mini split, so it has the one connection that's 5/16 instead of a 1/4 inch. Connect another charge hose from the manifold gauge to the vacuum pump. All right, so far so good. Open the low pressure side of the manifold gauge. Keep the high pressure side closed. So they're telling you to use manifold gauges. So I bet you guys be like, this is wrong, man. Number 4, turn on the vacuum pump to evacuate the system. All right, great. So far so good. Number 5, run the vacuum for at least 15 minutes or until the compound meter reads minus 76 centimeters or negative 10 pascals. So, close the low pressure side of the pump. That's the whole thing right there. Close the low pressure side of the manifold gauge and turn off the vacuum pump. Wait 5 minutes and check that there has been no change in system pressure according to your analog gauge. So, for all the stuff that they have in these things, I mean, I guess... And the thing would be, is it for homeowners? Is it just a homeowner deal? But I mean, you got a vacuum pump. Homeowners don't even own vacuum pumps, typically, unless they go get that Harbor Freight one. But I mean, run it for 15 minutes, and that's it, basically, for the vacuum. And it seems like every mini split I've ever done has had the same instructions in it. So I don't know. I did it the way I normally do it, which is just use a micron gauge, because it ain't that much harder to use a micron gauge. It ain't like it takes a long time because it's not a very large system. I used a Yellow Jacket digital pump, a DC pump, and it went down to like 80 microns or something. And when I did the blank off test, I think it was hovering right around 100 after a few minutes. So we were good. Yeah. Jared says, so basically smoke 2 cigs and let her rip. That's right, Jared. That's how that rolls. That's exactly what it is. That used to be exactly what we did. I don't know how often I've talked about this, but I smoked for a long time. It was before I was on YouTube. From when I was a teenager, like a freshman or sophomore in high school, I smoked. And I'll tell you what happened. I was out skipping class one day. This is me. And we were walking along this road, and my buddy's like, you want to smoke a cigarette? I was like, yeah, okay, sure, why not? I never smoked one before. It makes me cooler, is what I understand, so I'm going to do it. And he was smoking Newports, which are a menthol cigarette, which are typically, and after that I realized I don't really care for menthol cigarettes, but it has like this weird cool feeling whenever you smoke it. So I smoked that menthol and I thought it was cool, a little bit of coughing, didn't really inhale at all because I'd never smoked before. And then, 10, 15 years later, I'm finally quitting smoking. So the moral of the story is you may think you look cool, but you do not. And please stop doing it because it is not healthy. But whenever you're doing it, it sure does feel good. So it's hard to do. It's very difficult to quit smoking. Vaping's better now because vaping looks so stupid. You don't even look cool anymore. So it's like, at least with smoking, you had that whole cool James Dean thing going. But now with vaping, it just looks dumb. So it makes it easier to quit. There you go. That's my pitch for quitting smoking, guys. Quitting smoking. And the Sophia split air conditioner, we'll review that again sometime. I just kind of grabbed that because I remember the evacuation instructions. But like I said, you'll see the video coming up. I evacuated the thing. It'll show going over the flares and tightening them up. I made sure to use that line set flare too, guys, because I know a lot of people hate those. So I said, I'm going to use them. Let's see how well they work. On the bottom side. On the head side of the mini split, I cut the flares off and brazed it because why would you want to use the flares on the inside? I'm pretty sure the book didn't mention that, but I think if the book thought about it, it would have changed its mind and said that. That's what I did. And I feel great about it. I did flow nitrogen, so I am a good boy. I flowed my nitrogen. There's no carbon buildup in those tiny, tiny lines, which are 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch, I think. I'm pretty sure. 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch. So you usually get pretty small lines, so it's more important to flow nitrogen because of the size of the copper, although it's going to take a lot of carbon to clog up a 1/4 inch line, I think. Just think about all the brazing we did coming up and all the carbon we spewed everywhere when we weren't flowing nitrogen and all the lines that really never had a problem. So you're going to have to be pretty bad at it, I think, to have an issue. That being said, it's better to flow nitrogen, and when at all possible, I do flow nitrogen. But I don't flow it every time because sometimes it's just a pain in the butt. You got like a quick braze to do, and you don't want to get out like a whole rig full of crap just to make one braze. And if you're doing something like small stuff like the 1/4 inch all the way up to like 1/2 inch and even 5/8, you put a little heat on it and you run that braze around. If you're using 15%, which is what I do, oxygen and acetylene. If you run the braze around, you're pretty much done within a few seconds. of starting. So adding another bottle to it and hose hookup, and my nitrogen little flow meter broke like 4 years ago. So I just kind of had to crack the hose a little bit. So instead of flowing 1 to 2 PSI, I'm flowing like 12 PSI. So I'm going from, displacing the air in the pipe to just kind of blowing the solder out of the joint while I'm trying to braze, which is not the case. Usually I can get it low enough where that's not a problem, but if you do flow it at too high pressure, I mean, it's going to blow the stuff right back out of the joint sometimes, especially if you have a long line set and the air or the nitrogen is just trying to get out of there as fast as it can. The easiest spot might be your joint. So, okay, what I'm going to do here is I will open up the phones here and anybody can call in. And man, oh man, yeah, I see Doug's down there. It's like, wow, that's outdated. Every mini split I've ever done says that. So this is brand new, I guess. I don't know if there's going to be a date in here or not. But it's brand new. I mean, I got the thing. Okay, let's be honest. I've had it for like a few months. All right, I've had it for several months, and I finally put it in. So the Cooper and Hunter people will be like, okay, finally. Okay, good. But, I mean, they've all been like that for me. And I think it's just homeowner-friendly stuff. I think they expect, because the thing is on Amazon, they expect some homeowners to buy it. There's like a big red sticker on it that says it needs to be installed by a licensed technician. But, I mean, whatever. I mean, I installed this one. Anybody can do it. The homeowners can do it. And if you don't have a vacuum pump, you just purge and go, baby. Purge and go. That's what I say. Hard to do with a flare. You know what I'm saying? Hard to purge and go with a flare. But you can do it. You just got to put your mind to it. Doug says Mitsubishi has a 350 micron advisory in their manual. So that's good. Now, is that for like a 1-to-1? Just a simple wall mount and condenser? Because I figure that when you get off into the VRF category, you will have a little bit more stipulations about what you have to do. Weaver, my Browns fan friend. Let's see. He says, I had a glass vial flow meter. I blew mine out. Then I read the directions stated not to apply more than 50 PSI. I've had my second one for 10 years now. Well, I will tell you this. I had a flow meter, and I want to say it was probably Uniweld, and it has a little overpressure spot where it'll blow out if it's overpressure. And it blew out one time because I screwed it up, and then I just brazed the overpressure slot closed and continued to use it, and it worked great for years and years and years too. So I think that's probably not advised though, because if it's blowing out that spot, it's like a fail-safe, because you don't want like the little glass part to blow out. You want the design section to blow out. But Doug says that's a City multi-head. Okay, makes sense. So let's do some sponsor stuff real quick. Then we can take some phone calls, go over my stuff here. My not updated cards yet. We have NAVAC as a sponsor. NAVACglobal.com. Battery-powered flaring tools, battery-powered swagers, battery-powered vacuum pumps, guys. They really like the battery-powered stuff, and they are really good at it. You can find this stuff at TrueTechTools.com. They have a lot of HVAC testing supplies. It's unbelievable that my brother-in-law is calling now. He only calls when I'm on the air. That's so funny. And he's not watching the show, by the way. He's just randomly calling at the exact same time. It's just funny. So True Tech Tools, a lot of us shop there. If you do shop there, use the Shop Talk discount code. Pretty much all the codes give you the same amount, 8%. So if you just want to support this show and show some special appreciation, I would appreciate that. Use the Shop Talk code. Of course, there's plenty of codes out there. You support who you want, as long as you want to support me. EWC Controls, the BM Plus 3000 zone panel. We got our power open, power closed dampers. They make thermostats. They make fresh air dampers. That's right. Dampers specifically made for fresh air. Hey, they have spring dampers too for you spendthrifts out there who don't want to spring for a, no pun intended, power open, power closed damper. But I mean, if you're going to get zoning supplies, spring, non-spring zone panels, get EWC. They're a really good brand, really high quality. You can find out more at EWCcontrols.com. Yellow Jacket, the YJack probes. Let's just take a moment and think about the YJack probes. Wasn't that nice? So YJack probes are really nice. They have a very high distance, like 800, 900 feet is how far I went. And there is a, what's the thing called now? A repeater. Just forgot it for a second. A repeater allows you to maximize how far they reach. They make the pressure probes for your lines. They make temperature probes for your pipes. They make psychrometer probes. As you see in the picture here, there's going to be a manometer, dual port manometer probe as well. So they have a whole lot of great stuff, and you know it's going to be good because it's Yellow Jacket. Company Cam is the only app every contractor needs. Document your jobs, communicate with your crews, covering your company's butt. You know, when I came up with that, is like the reason why I like Company Cam, the covering the butt part. I didn't even know it said that right there. It feels like I stole it now. Maybe it's some kind of subconscious thing. I don't know. But I don't know. CompanyCam.com. It's good stuff. You do need to cover your butt. Look into it, especially if you have a company of multiple people. It might come in handy. And Refrigeration Technologies. Guys, every coil cleaner you need. It's coil cleaning time. Time to get out there and spray down your condensers. Watch all that crap fall off of them and just enjoy it. Because when you spray it off and it's all nice underneath, it's like a good feeling. It's really nice. I don't know why that is, but just people like that sort of thing. I like that sort of thing. I need to clean mine. I haven't cleaned it since I put it in. It looks awful. Really awful. I should go now, but I'll do it later. RefrigeTech.com. You can also find this stuff at TrueTechTools.com. And away we go. All right. So if you want to call in on the phone and chit-chat about whatever it is you want to chit-chat about, hey, go ahead. I invite you to. I think you should call in. We'll have a good time. We'll talk about HVAC stuff. If not, I can just talk about these comments, and there's no guarantee if they're going to be interesting or not. I mean, because some people just comment thumbs up, which I like, but there's not much to discuss there. Or like Dustin commented, nice. No need to expand on nice. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we have a caller on the air. Here we go. You are on the air with Zach.
What's up, Zach?
I'm Zach, by the way.
Yes, sir. How are you?
We've met before. Albert,
Yes,
how's
sir.
it going?
Hey, you were talking about mini splits, and hey, look, I'm not working today. My son's car broke down, so I had to drive out to Coastal Carolina to drop off my truck and take his car to the dealership, and I'm going to rent a car and go back. But
Wait,
we were talking
all the way
about
to
mini
Myrtle
splits.
Beach? You had to go all the way to Myrtle Beach?
Yeah.
Man, you're a good. See, that's what it took, though, for you to stop working, right? You needed some kind of. It wasn't like you decided this morning you were going to work.
Well,
Fate
it would have
decided.
been easier if they would rent cars out to kids under the age of 25, but they don't. So I had to drive out here, give him my truck, have his car towed to the dealership, to the Ford, and then I'm renting a car and driving it back to Charlotte, and then he'll be back on May 4th because he'll be helping me out when I go for surgery. He'll be back in town May 4th, and then that's when I get my truck back.
Well, I couldn't help but notice you said surgery. So everything going okay there, Albert?
Oh, yeah, it's lower back surgery. I hurt my back like 20 years ago, and it got better, and then I hurt it again in September, and now you start getting the sciatica, and my left leg was completely numb, and I was getting burning sensations down my thigh. And they found 2 floating fractures in my L5 pressing up against the S1 nerve. And so I got to go in on May 5th and have those extracted.
So is S1, is that sciatic nerve then?
Yeah.
Wow. That sounds painful.
It is. It is. With the medicines that they give you, the problem is that they load you up on prednisone, like the steroid, and it helps with the anti-inflammatory side of it. And then they give you like gabapentin, which is for like nerve control. It eases that burning sensation.
Yep.
But it stuff makes you really sleepy. So they're like, you need to take 4 a day. I take 1 a day. I take 2 a day, and it puts me to sleep almost the whole day. So it was really tough just taking the 2. So I went back down to 1. But other than that, it's controllable. I can't do real heavy lifting.
Yeah, I'm familiar with gabapentin because they give that to people with restless leg syndrome, and it just knocks them out. I think that's the effect of it. They just want to give them something to knock them out so they can sleep.
And he told me that he told me I was on the 4 pills was the lowest dose I could take. He's like, most people will take anywhere between 10 to 12, and I'm like, that's insane. I would put me in a coma.
Well, you know, it's no different than someone who's, I guess, experienced at drinking alcohol or any other sort of drug. You know, you get used to it after a while. And people that have been on it for years and years, because I think some of these people, they stay on it forever. So the tolerance is way up on it. And just you come along, probably someone who doesn't really like to take a whole lot of drugs, and it just works magnificently with 1 pill.
I'm like most of your listeners, where I don't go to the doctor unless I'm dying. And by the time I get there, they're like, man, you should have been here 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
We could have saved that appendage.
Yeah. Did you bring the finger? Nah, it's in a Ziploc bag in the fridge. I forgot. Oops. But okay. So with your back, when you injured your back, how did you treat that? Did you try to continue working until it was just no
I
go, or
did.
what?
Well, no, I did work, and it was bad. It got to the point where I couldn't barely walk, and I still forced myself to work. I was taking a leave. I was putting back patches. I was using hot pads, cold pads, and working for more than 5 hours. It was unbearable, but I still did it. There was stuff that needed to be done, so I kind of pushed with it, and they put me on prednisone, and that made it better. But after prednisone, once you wean off of it, the effects start to come back. And so they're like, well, you can't be on prednisone forever. And they, rescheduled a few. This happened back in September when it really flared up. But, I manage it. I just take a lot of Aleve, which is not great for your body, but it's what helps with the pain.
Yeah, it's tough. All the different things like Aleve, and then you have ibuprofen, then you have Tylenol. All of them have something that it damages if you take it for a long enough period, whether it be your liver or stomach or what. It's very
Yeah.
difficult to stay on them for a long period of time. Well, that sucks, man. So the back surgery, is the prognosis going to be that their goal is to make it back to 100% or what?
Right. So they tell me that the surgery is so specialized now that when they do the extraction, that it actually within 30 days, you're going to feel like it never happened. And I actually had a customer who had the exact same surgery about 5 years ago, because he saw me. I was probably about 3 weeks ago. He saw me limping to his gas pack, and he was like, "What's up with your leg?" And I said, "It's the sciatica." And he's like, "You got to get the surgery done." I said, "It's scheduled May 5th." And I said, and he goes, "Yeah, I had it done." And he goes, "The only regret I had was I didn't get it done sooner. I dealt with it for 8 years."
Oh my
And
gosh.
and then he did it, and within 30 days, he was like, it was a new person.
It's so weird that, we'll have something at work. Like I remember one time I had an abscess. I just kept working until it was just, my wife was like, you have to go to the doctor. And like, it was just one slice away from relief. I just wouldn't do it. I just kept on working.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. When I first hurt myself, I was still working for the department. I worked for a company that was they were subcontractors for the Department of Defense, and I was what the Air Force would classify as a loadmaster. But I was a civilian contractor for the military, and I actually fell off an airplane, a DC-8. They had pulled the ladder away too far from the airplane. I wasn't paying attention. I slipped through it and slipped between the ladder, and the airplane dropped about 25 feet to the ground. I hurt my back. Shattered my hip, and I broke my jaw.
That's
From
brutal.
that jaw got an infection, and I got an abscess in it. And I worked with that abscess. It actually bulged out, and I was in Spain, and I couldn't take it no more. And I had to go there, and it was crazy. I went into the hospital. They had the abscess taken out, and I think my bill was like 500 euros. And I remember coming back and having it checked out by my doctor, and he goes, "You got a good deal." He's like, "That's like a $15,000 surgery." And I was like, "That's Europe for you."
500 euros. I forget what euro would be to dollar, but that's probably like what, like
Well,
$1,000 or something.
it's like five. Well, it's for every euro, it's like a buck 27.
Okay.
Back then, when this happened to me, the euro and the dollar were they were almost right at face value of each other.
Wow, that was a good deal.
Yeah. But that was just that same thing. And then now, several years later, I'm now dealing with back issues again from the same thing.
And you're hoping that this is supposed to be the end of the saga.
Oh yeah. If this ends the saga, I'll never take a day off. I'll just work till I'm dead. No, I'm just kidding.
That's what trades are. You work and
Yeah.
then you die, and then that's the end.
Yeah, it is, and this is one of those conversations we'll have later on, hopefully either this week or next week, whenever we can get together, have that conversation about how my work week works. It's weird because a lot of the guys see it and they're like, there's more to life than just working. Yeah, there is, but I worked the same hours they did for many years with my kids. I worked at not a 9 to 5, but generally 9 to 5. You took that extra call at 5, 6 o'clock. You were home by 7 or 8. You had your weekends off, depending on the schedule. You were off 3 days a week, right? You worked 4 10s. You had 3 days off. Sometimes those 3 days just kind of locked in with the next 3 days. So sometimes you got 6 days off. I always came in and worked on my days off. And the story behind that is I went from making 150,000 a year to 35,000, becoming a maintenance tech. And so that's why I kind of built that ability to just kind of keep working and working out. There was always a bill that had to be paid. There was always groceries that need to be done, car payments. And so I kind of worked that schedule. But really, like 10 years ago is what changed my life. I was following this guy, and he gave me some really good advice. I was at a seminar, and he says, I told him, I said, I work a lot, and I really need to find a way to kind of control my schedule and work, work a certain amount of hours and spend time with my family. And he's like, yeah, the only thing I can tell you is this: sleep is for people who are broke. And that's the only thing he told me. And that has stuck with me for 10 years.
Who's the guy who told you that?
Pete Ramsey.
Oh, wait a second. This is the guy on Uncensored's podcast, right?
Yeah, I don't know. He's just a motivational speaker. He does a lot of financial stuff.
Wait, okay. Is it Pete Ramsey or Dave Ramsey?
Dave Ramsey. I'm sorry, Dave Ramsey.
Okay, because Pete Ramsey's like an HVAC sales guy, I think. There is a Pete Ramsey too. That's where the confusion comes from. Dave Ramsey, I remember because I remember emergency fund, $1,000.
The older chubby guy. That's the guy that gave me the advice.
I think Dave Ramsey. I really like him, Dave Ramsey, and we used to have a guy. I don't know if it was national, but a guy named Clark Howard that would give financial advice, and they were just really, really good because it was common sense. It was like, okay, so I can't go buy a bunch of stuff I want. I have to actually be smart, and it's still trouble for me sometimes. But I try to do better. But that's a good guy to follow right there. But it's interesting that he said that. So he actually said, if you're the guys who sleep are broke, so that stuck with you. That's wild. You know what? And Albert got cut off for some reason. I have no idea why. Here he is again. I'm gonna let him back on the air. It took a second, and I realized you were gone. I don't know if you can hear me. Hold on a second. Let me do this. Albert, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. For some reason, my phone went into some different mode, and I couldn't hear anything you were saying. Huh. Oh, it's doing it again. I don't know what it's doing. We're gonna fix it. Let's see here.
Paying stuff off. It made sense. And then you read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, it's continuing to do this. I don't think he can hear me.
Zach?
Yep. Hold on a second, Albert, because we're having technical difficulties here. I'm going to unplug this thing and plug it back in. For some reason, my phone's going nuts.
It sounds like somebody's Bluetooth is picking it up.
It's kind of weird. Maybe someone's airdropping all my information to themselves. I don't know how airdrop works. You know what's funny? My son just pulled in the car. That's what it is. It tried to hook up to the Bluetooth in my car.
Yeah, I heard a door close, so I was like, I think it hooked up to somebody's Bluetooth.
Oh, we've troubleshot this one with success because, as soon as I was like, what's going on? I see my car go right there. It's the one I typically drive. We swapped today. That's funny. Okay, so I think we're probably fine since he shut it off. So I missed the part where you came back a little bit because I thought you had hung up, and then you came back. And so I missed everything. So you had to revisit that.
Oh, no, we're talking about Dave Ramsey and how he talks about snowball debt. And then I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I want to say that I might be mispronouncing his name, but most guys should know what book that is.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, if you read the book, it'll make you quit your job. And that was the exact effect it had on me. I said, you know what? I'm going to quit my job. And sure enough, I talked to my twin brother about it. And I said, dude, I think I'm going to quit. And I'm going to start my own business. And he was like, are you crazy? I'm like, no. He's like, you have 6 kids. I'm like, I know. That's why I need to quit now. And sure enough, I did. And, I followed some of the advice that they did and that they say. But, only you've owned a business. And you know what it's like. You're either in it 100% or you're not.
It's true. Yeah. The worst part of my business was when my attention was divided. So, that was the worst period I had. So I absolutely agree. Yes.
Yeah. And so it's a little bit different for me than most other guys who try to start their own business. Some people start their own business from scratch. Some people buy into the business. Some people inherit the business, right? Some people's dad owned the business for several years. They worked for their dad, and eventually they took over the reins. So by the time they took over the reins, like there was already a blueprint set up. There was already systems set in place. And for me, that wasn't the case. I was basically learning from scratch, looking at YouTube videos on guys starting business. I mean, from plumbing to HVAC to electrical, even landscapers, and seeing how they run their businesses and their invoices. The real difference for me was my family, the involvement of my family, my kids. So people say, man, if you work all the time, you don't spend time with your family. That's not true. Man, I spend 80 hours a week with my kids.
That's what I said. When we were talking on one of the other shows, I said, well, they were talking about your work-life balance. And I was like, but his kids are there. I mean, he's with his children. So in one way, you are actually together more than you would be otherwise.
Yeah, I spend more time with my kids. I have more FaceTime with my sons, and with my wife. My wife is on the phone every day with me. She's our dispatcher. Well, my kids like to call her the Nazi, because she will send you so many calls. And my brother says your wife has these large goals, and she's going to make sure you get them for her.
Oh, I like that. So
yeah,
it's kind of a cool system right there.
Yeah, and so this business will eventually go on to my kids, but my kids are learning the trade, and there's only so many things you can focus on to get decent at. And so right now I need them to learn the technical stuff. And as a dad, I kind of hold back my kids a little bit, because we were talking about the brazing one time, and like I had to try to supervise everything. And for me, the brazing part is just such a dangerous part of the trade for guys. Most of them are like, no, it's not that bad. Well, you've been doing it for a long time. It's hard for me to let go of that, relinquish that one really specific duty for them, because I'm worried. I'm not worried about just them, but them, the house, the business. If we burn somebody's house down, we could hurt somebody, we can hurt them, we can lose the business.
Yeah, I understand that. Whenever you had said that before, that's what caught my attention too. Because I was like, okay, well, they've got to learn somewhere. That's why I've asked you that follow-up question about how do you train them. And, I understand that, because the first few times I brazed, it was horrible. It was really, really bad. But eventually these are going to be the people that run your business. So there's a point in which you have to say, okay, whatever happens, happens. I guess we got to let them do it.
Yeah. Well, I was working, when I started out, I worked for a new construction company, and they went out to a neighborhood that the company was putting the HVAC systems for. It was a brand new neighborhood, and they had a warranty call on the model home. It had like 3 realtors in there. They had people coming in. It was a Saturday, and I remember the guy's name was Tony, and he went out there to go run the warranty call. And what it was is they had a biflow filter leak. At that time, the company I worked for was putting biflow filters on the outside, and they changed it after the incident. But he was cutting out the biflow dryer, was going to put a new one in there, and he caught the mulch on fire, and the entire building went down.
You're kidding me.
It was on the news. I remember watching the news, and I'm like, my God, I think that's the neighborhood that we work in. And then I get the phone call from Dave, which was our supervisor in the field, and he was like, yeah, Tony just burned down he burned down a $400,000 house with people still in it. Luckily, nobody got hurt. And this is a guy who had 6-7 years in the business. And he was it wasn't that he was careless. I mean, there was a careless factor to it. But what happened to him was he freaked out. He didn't have an extinguisher with him. Let me ask you this. How many technicians take their fire extinguisher with them into a crawl space, into an attic, or even to the outdoor condenser when they're working? Because I've never seen them.
Residential, that would be 0.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the practice. The rules are there. Like when you stop, it's going to be in the company text that, hey, if you're always take your fire. That's why they stick a fire extinguisher in our truck. It's not because if our truck catches on fire. So if we're on a job site, we have a fire extinguisher handy. So what happens is he's out there, he catches the mulches on fire. He drops his torch, not even thinking. The torch is still lit. Runs out to his van to go get the fire extinguisher. That torch has now made a huge mess, and they lost the building. And the business nearly went down for it. I mean, they ended up paying the insurance got involved and everything like that. But that was a big deal for the HVAC company at the time.
So he kind of freaked out, and made a small. Well, potentially he could have just stepped on it after he shut his
Yep.
torch off, but he freaked
Stepped
out
on
and
it,
he burned a
yeah.
building
Throw
down.
Gatorade on it, something.
Oh yeah, I mean you're braising, so you probably have a little bucket of rags around you or something.
Not with this company.
I don't know if that means they used something else or they didn't use anything.
It was a new construction company, and it's true what they say. I mean, like they cut a lot of corners. They did, and there was. I mean, I never saw guys using the wet rag or even an actual wet rag. They weren't using any of those devices. Half the guys out there weren't even pulling vacuums. I mean, these guys were purging refrigerant lines. It was insane. It was like the Wild Wild West.
Old school.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the old guys that were there. I mean, old guys, heavy smokers, drinkers. These guys, and now they had a ton of diagnostic knowledge. Like you would tell them, "Hey, man, I had this going on." They'd tell you right that you got to look at this. It's this. This is what your problem was. But those same guys were like, "It's beer can code, scrounge."
You wonder though. I mean, because one of the guys who is on my podcast periodically is named Jose De La Portilla. He works at Samsung. And I remember back in the day, he did a video when he worked with Linux about how beer can cold is a method of charging. And I'm pretty sure that was a serious video. So is it possible that these guys are just so good at their job that they can actually get it close just by feeling the line? I'm not trying to be funny. I mean, I'm being serious.
No, there's got to be some truth to it. I don't know. I've never gone. I mean, look, I'm not going to tell you I purged nitrogen every single time because that's not the way I was taught. I started at that company. They had some pretty poor practices. It wasn't until I moved on to an actual legit company where they stopped me and, they did that right check with you. And they're like, well, you know what? We're going to put you for 2 weeks with a trainer. You've got the abilities, but there's some stuff that you need to work on. And then I started doing that. And I was like, wow, there's a whole lot of extra steps when doing these things, and it made me a better technician.
Yeah, you got to learn some of this stuff. It's like me. I learned a certain way, which was kind of the old school way that you're talking about. And then a lot of times, just because of our access to the internet, we get exposed to these new best practices that we just don't hear about, and we're like, wow, look how wrong we did it for so long. And it's just kind of an eye opener. But it goes back to what I was saying about the beer can cold thing. Though some of the things that we learn aren't necessarily necessary all the time. I think that's with experience, you kind of gauge which ones are and which ones are not.
Yeah. Well, and I don't ride with my kids all the time, right? Obviously they got their own trucks. When we're slow, I ride with them a lot, especially when we're changing seasons. Cause when you go into the summer season, you basically forgot everything through the winter season of some of the steps that need to be done when you're doing a preventive maintenance, how to check everything, not to skip any steps when you're doing it. For guys who have been doing it for 10, 15 years, they're not going to really forget that stuff. Both my sons, they're still new, 3 years in the business. So I do ride with them in the slow time. And I'll drive. That's the thing. I have to drive, even if I'm in their truck. I'm like, all right, you're in the passenger seat. I'm driving all day. And I watch videos on maintenances. So if we're doing winter maintenances, I watch as many YouTube videos on maintenances as possible, and videos that I've watched probably 30, 40, 50 different times. And they're like, Dad, why do you keep watching these videos? And I'm like, because there's some sort of little gem that might stick to me. I might do something a little bit different. I don't know. I mean, I've watched Ralph's video that he ran about how to run a service call.
Yeah.
And even though I scream at some of the stuff that he was doing, I was like, man, this guy's taking 1,000 steps to do one thing. There's still stuff to learn.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've noticed that too. Whenever I'll make a video, and I think in the last one I was saying that if you need a better way, there's one in the comments, and there's truth to that. There'll be people that do anything that you do. There's a guy who does it better. It's just the logic, and it's logical that would be so. So it's good to learn from other people. And, it's good to admit that that's the truth, because then you can kind of let go of any pride that's barring you from learning.
Yeah. And so my kids seeing me work all the time, and I during the summertime, I will work 7 days a week. I do work 25 weeks straight unless something is stopping me from working, whether it is a planned vacation or I have to drive out to Carolina Beach or to Coastal and pick up my son. Or drop them off a vehicle if it's something like that. But other than that, I drive. For me, it doesn't matter. Work is work. I get up, I'm going to go do something. I'm the kind of guy that if I have 2 days off, I'm useless. I'm the most useless person. I'll sit there and I'll binge watch The Office on Netflix and I get nothing done. And then I don't want to go back to work. And so to prevent that, I work all the time.
Oh, that's smart. You know yourself. So that's good because I think it's like admitting that there's a flaw there and you recognize it, so you can circumvent it. I think that's smart because I'm the same way. If I'm made to sit on the couch and do something like that, it just completely dismantles me. I like to do stuff all the time. I like up until this show started, I'm putting up walls inside this building here. As soon as this show's over, I'll be walking a mile or two with the dog. I just like to do something, and I like to imagine it's productive in some manner.
Yeah. And then to circle back to the whole thing about, I didn't inherit the business. So hopefully by the time I ever decide to pull out of the business, not pull out completely, but like let my kids take the reins, because I've got the one kid who's going for business management and he's getting a marketing degree. I've got another one who's going to be going into advertising and marketing. Eventually they'll take over the business. It may be 5-10 years from now where I can actually pull back and get out of the field. And then they won't be doing, they'll do some of the stuff that I do, right? Because if you've ever worked for a company and they tell you you're on call this weekend, that's 5 o'clock, the office closes, phones roll over to your cell phone. You answer every call, run as many as you can. And it always left a bad taste in my mouth when my supervisors were like, hey man, why didn't you took 12 calls this weekend, you only ran 8 of them. What happened to the additional calls? Why didn't you run? And I'm like, dude, what were you doing this weekend? He's like, he goes, I don't work the weekends. I hated that. I used to work for a guy, and I'll say his name. He still lives in Charlotte, but his name's Alan Love. And there was a time where they didn't have the on-call service. And for like a month, I went on call. It was kind of a deal. They were like, we're going to pay you extra if you go on call every weekend. They didn't have enough crew to do it. And I said, I'll do it for the extra pay. I need, I'm in a tight spot. I need the money. So I did it. And then eventually he says, all right, next weekend, we're going to go over to we're going to have the online, or not online, but what do you call this? The after hours people that pick up the phone from a different state.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so it never came. And then my paycheck came and it didn't have the differential, the extra pay. There was like $250 extra a week. And I didn't get the pay. And so I asked him, I said, Alan, I didn't get paid yet. You guys left me on call. He's like, we're going to take care of it next week. So I did it the second week and the exact same thing happened again. Now the guy is screwing me. It's to the point where I'm going to call the Department of Labor and say, hey, these guys are screwing me out of wages. And so the third week, I didn't pick up the phone. And he's blasting my phone. I turn my phone off. And I go to Monday and he's like, I was trying to golf with my son and the damn phones are ringing and they're sending everything to my phone. He goes, I'm the goddamn general manager. Like, it was just crazy. And I was like, dude, that's it. I'm done. Like, you can't, like, what you're doing is wrong. And so those little things, those little events, as horrible as they can be, they help kind of mold my character a little bit. So I know that everybody who works for me, they know that they don't have to work every single day. And if they're working out late, I'm probably working right next to them. If they're telling me, man, I'm getting home at 9 o'clock at night, I'm like, I'm probably the headlights behind you in this traffic.
I gotcha.
And so I want my sons to do that, because eventually it'll be other people working for them, because they'll be hopefully management, supervisors, installs, whatever they're doing. And they'll have technicians working for them. And when they send out a technician working out late, the technician better know that they're also working late. Like, they're not just going to send people out to the fire and then sit home and drink beer.
I like this. We are going to have to close this out, Albert, but I want to pick this up when we have our one-on-one, which, could potentially be tomorrow. I don't know what you're doing tomorrow, but if you're around at the same time, I don't know, but we can talk about that, after we're done here.
Sure. Yeah. I hate that I get on here sometimes and it kind of just time flies.
No, it's fine. I love the fact that you feel comfortable calling in. I feel like we have great conversations. It's just I'm up against a little bit of a border because there's something I have to do. And we can save this for whenever we have our dedicated conversation.
Yeah, we'll hook up for like probably the end of the week or something.
Okay, well, that's fine. Yeah, I'll be doing this every single day as long as my wife's not yelling at me. And even on the days she is yelling at me, I might do it anyway because I really love it. So
because you stream every day, like I work every day.
That's right, and it's important to me. I love it. I genuinely love it, and when I get a chance to go out in the field, I love that too. But
Yeah.
I've really grown to love this profession that I found by accident. So I do like to do it all the time.
Yeah. Well, that's the same thing for me. And I know you got to cut it loose, but 20 years in, man, and I still love this job. I love everything about it. There are customers I don't love. There are some situations that you get put in that I don't like. But man, the business itself, like I love going out to calls. I mean, if you get somebody who just started in the business and they go out to somebody's house who's not, that their system's not working, they go out there and they fix it, and that customer's like, you're the hero. I love that feeling. I love customers saying, man, thank you for coming out. Thank you for getting us heating and cooling. So I love every part of the business. There's just parts of it I don't like, but in general, I love 95% of the business.
I agree with you. I feel the same way about it. I mean, troubleshooting, the satisfaction of a customer that was served and they really, think of you like almost like a hero for that brief period of time. It is great. It's really nice. And troubleshooting is good. And I always thought of service calls as it's like a lottery. You never know what you're going to get. You don't know if it's going to be in more ways than one. You don't know what you're going to get as far as troubleshooting. You don't know how much money you could potentially make on it. And I like that. I like that randomness of it, where it could be like the compressor has to be changed. Okay, well, that's good. That'll bring in a lot of money for the company. That's great. Or maybe it's a capacitor. Okay, well, I'll bring in a little bit of money. We'll go on to the next one. It's just it's just fun. It was always fun. It's just just that time ran out for me by and large,
Sure.
but I had a good time with it. And I think guys that enjoy it are a lucky breed.
Yeah. Well, all right, man. Well, we'll talk later.
All right, man. Yeah, I'll shoot you a text here shortly, and we'll set it up, okay?
All right. Thanks, man.
All right, man. Later. That's old Albert Matar right there from Charlotte, North Carolina, guys. I am going to wrap it up because I have something I have to do. We'll be back tomorrow, and then tomorrow after that, because I love doing it. Like I just said, that was legit what I just said. If you want to support the show, you can do so by giving a thumbs up if you're listening on YouTube. You can also support me at Subscribestar, which I was going to put a little tile up, but I didn't make it in time. So you go to the description of the video. You can find that information if you want to support me there. I would love it if you did. It would be awesome. But give a thumbs up. Put a comment on the video. You can put a comment, not on the podcast. Commenting on the podcast, that doesn't work very well. But you can email me at hvacshoptalk@gmail.com. Always like to hear from people. If you have a show idea or you want to come on the show, I mean, I like that. I like having like technicians, like regular in the field technicians. It's fun to talk to them because I feel like that's the breed I'm from. It makes sense when you talk about stuff. I understand. Even if we don't work on the same stuff, the experiences are still similar. So I do like that very much. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I see Adam was here. Mike Bemko was here. Jared, Nick, what's up, Nick? Zah. And Doug, I appreciate it, guys. You can listen to this as a podcast after this. And I guess, I'll get out of here. I will see you guys. Let me drag it out so I can get to the right tile. On the... Where's it at? I don't know where it's at. I guess I deleted it. That wasn't very smart. Nope, here it is. I'll see you on the next one, guys. I appreciate it. See you tomorrow. Please consider supporting me at subscribestar.com/Zach-Ciota. I offer my Subscribestar subscribers bonus content podcast as well as giveaways every single month for gift cards.